bridge that gap. No script to wild, no dream to trap. Rewriting, lighting, feedback, rap. All eyes up now, it's ASAP.
The award-winning author, the amazing author, Shade Fadipe.
Children, I love you.
We speak in sparks, in loops, in flight. One more trip through neon light. ASAP sprint through time and trap. Lights go red, but we don't nap. From dust to code, we bridge that gap. No script to wild, no dream to rap. Rewriting, lighting, feedback, rap. All eyes up now, it's ASAP.
Okay. Hello, Maxwell.
Hi, Shade.
So lovely to meet you. I've had a look at your amazing work, and I really do want this to be a free-flowing interview. Let's enjoy ourselves. I'll ask questions. You can ask me questions if you want, as long as they're not technical. But let's just have fun with this interview. So I'll do my bit now. My name is Shade Fadipe, and I am based in Essex. I'm a children's book author, and I recently founded an organization called the Children and Authors Literary Fanfare, in which we go into museum spaces and we have a lot of fun with their artifacts, with our storytelling, and we just love to engage children's authors and illustrators. So probably that's why we're here today, myself and you, talking about your new adventures. So Maxwell, tell us about yourself.
So my name's Maxwell Afolabi Oginni. And I'm primarily a character animator, but I'm also an illustrator, a character design artist, a story artist, and have just recently transitioned into children's picture books illustrations as well. I've been working in the animation industry for this year will be 19 years now. So it's been quite a while, and I've kind of shifted from different positions in that time. So it's been quite a long time. But as I said, children's picture books is kind of is the sort of area that I'm in now. I haven't left animation, just to kind of make it clear. But that's kind of the project that I'm currently working on at the moment. I also do teach animation. Like I have an animation workshop business that I teach on the side to primary school children as well. So that's something that I really have a passion for as well. And that's essentially me right now.
Thank you, Maxwell. It's part of why we're here is because of this transition from animation into becoming a picture book illustrator. But I'd like you to take us back a little bit about your career journey and how you've transited from being within the digital space and now working with physical books. Where did it start from?
Man, how much time do we have? So I was I'll really try to condense this. So I was born in Nigeria, and I always had a passion for drawing. My dad could draw. My older brother could really draw as well, and he played a really big part in nurturing my gifts as an artist. As youngsters, he used to set up a drawing club for me and my younger brother where we would draw out of video games magazines, and he would grade us out of 10, and I was always happy to get top marks and things like that. So he was very, very influential in my journey. So then we skipping forward, we came over to the UK and went to secondary school, and I knew by that point that I wanted to get into animation. I think it was when this was in the early 90s, and Teenage Mutant Hero Turtles was really popular back then. So I watched I guess the first show, and I absolutely fell in love with it, and it was through that I knew that I wanted to become an animator. I don't think I really understood what it meant. I just saw these characters on TV moving, and I told one of my aunts that was what I wanted to be, and she really encouraged me, and then it just kind of stuck all the way through. So in secondary school, thankfully I had some of my art teachers really saw the interest that I had, and obviously back then they weren't teaching animation in school. It was just basic painting and that kind of stuff. But because of the passion that he saw that I had for it, he organized after school trips for me to go to my first animation studio So that kind of like was my first foot in the door. I didn't do any work experience or anything, but just getting to see how things worked at that time was yeah, was very, very encouraging. And then college came up, and I did, you know, the typical things. Did an art foundation course for 2 years, you know, learning the basics of all the fundamentals of like color theory, lighting, and things like that. Nothing to do with animation. I think by that point, I'd kind of sort of lost my way a little bit in terms of animation. I was just kind of going through the motions of I like art, and you know, this is what I'm supposed to do. Um, but then at the end of the course, we got to choose. It was like a self-directed project, so we got to choose what area we wanted to specialize in, and I was reminded of the path that I wanted to be on, which was animation. So I didn't know any softwares or anything like that. Didn't have any training in like, any animation softwares. So I told my teacher, and uh, he basically organized for me to speak to a multimedia teacher who taught me what was the software called? It was called Macromedia Director. I don't think anybody was well. Only like old school people would like, you know, remember what that software is. But so yeah, so I learned that in a very short space of time, and did this sort of day in the life of Max animation thing. And there was a final year show, and I won the show at the end. And so that really kind of reaffirmed that this is what I'm meant to do. Anyway, long story short, university came now, and I have to. So I'm going to share this little bit of info because I think it's quite important. So on my art foundation course, we obviously did live drawing and you know figure drawing and things like that. And I had a teacher that he actually told me that I would never become an animator, and it wasn't in a very constructive.
Can I stop you there? Can I just stop you there? Did you just say you had a teacher who said you can never be an animator?
I did, yeah. And it wasn't in a really constructive way either. Like it wasn't very nice, basically.
We don't want to ask what school that was. I mean, because I'm a teacher and I could easily go down that lane and say, how dare you say that? But hey, sometimes when those kind of when we have those kind of statements made, you know, towards us, that gives us a nudge and says, actually, you said I can't do it. Watch me.
Absolutely, absolutely. And that was what happened. And it was to be honest, I mean, for the way I am, like my personality, that worked for me. I know of some other people that may have really, you know, crushed them, but for me, because there was a side of it where what he was. So basically, the reason why he said that was that the life drawing that I had, like uh, there were a lot of things that I struggled with. Like I wasn't like, you know, like an amazing, you know, like my proportions and you know things like that weren't great and stuff like that. So that was valid, but obviously like to kind of just cross somebody like that, you know, was a little bit OTT.
Watch me now.
So, so I did take on what he said in that regard, but so when he said that he was doing like a portfolio review for me to prep my portfolio for my interview for university.
Okay.
But what he had done was he basically took out almost every piece of life drawing that I had done and left me with like just a couple of sheets and said, these are okay, you can go with those. And I remember staying back after class and just kind of like pondering over the whole thing. And I just felt something inside me say, put all of that stuff back in. So I did. And I went to my interview. And believe it or not, it actually worked out in my favor in that the tutor that interviewed me, he did see that, like, okay, you know, there's work to be done here, that there are things that, you know, you need to improve on. But what he liked was seeing the effort that I was putting in, seeing like, you know, that this guy, you know, didn't just do one drawing or two drawings. There's a lot here, so he could see that I was trying to, you know.
Can I just pause you there once again, only because I don't want to miss out on what's in my mind at the moment. So, do you think that part of what was pulled out of your portfolio had anything to do with your heritage that your lecturer couldn't quite connect with? You know, do you think, I mean, in hindsight, I just had to ask this question,
Yeah.
just in case.
Yeah, I mean, this is a valid question for me. Like, I never thought it was, but I've um another colleague of mine who's also sorry, a classmate of mine who we were in the same class. He's Nigerian as well. He had the same experiences with the same tutor as well. And like, we both agreed that, like, I mean, like, who would say something like that to, there's a better way that you could go about these things. So I didn't at the time, and I guess I still don't. I just kind of took it as maybe he's, one of these, maybe he's like somebody that is like, it's kind of like projecting, like maybe that they wanted to do something themselves, and maybe they've
Yeah. Yes.
maybe, but I didn't really dwell too much on that. And but going back to the interview, these seeing those bad drawings were what convinced the lecturers to take me on, because they saw the passion and the drive that I had, that this guy wants to improve. And it was based on that. If I didn't have all of that in there, I may not have gotten in, and that would have been it. So long story short, I was off. I think the time that I applied, it was quite late, so I got in through clearance. So I was offered what do they call it? An unconditional offer for the next year, because they'd already filled up the spaces. So I had 1 year to kill, and obviously, Nigerian parents, like, I wasn't just going to sit around for, my parents weren't going to. So I took on a multimedia course during that time, and then that also worked out in my favor. So it allowed me to learn softwares like Flash at the time. That it was called Flash, and so I learned animation, like, or basic animation, within that time. And so when I went to uni, it actually put me ahead, software wise, and in terms of, like, digital technology for animation. It wasn't character animation I was doing, but just having an understanding of the software really helps when it came to that stage. And I should mention as well, so university I went to, I specifically wanted to learn classical animation. I didn't want to do traditional animation, so that was what I was taught: pencil on paper, light box, everything like that. And then eventually, it then went into we dabbled in, like, Flash and digital animation. So that 1 year prior definitely set me up, a little bit ahead. And then so yeah, after uni, I finished the final year film. Didn't finish my film because I was very ambitious, and I had a lot of ideas, but there was a lot there that my tutors, I guess they saw, like, the potential and, like, what I was trying to do. That if I had more time, I think I was trying to make a feature film, and I didn't even realize it. And so my film got selected to be featured in some festivals at the time, and off the back of that, I was also selected for certain networking events. Myself and I think two other classmates of mine were selected for these events in London, and it was going to these events that introduced me to my first studios. So studio execs were there, and I got to meet them and things like that. And that was basically my foot into the industry. And yeah, the rest is there's more that I could say, but yeah, the rest is kind of history from there. So
Well, you've been very busy, very busy. I think one of the things that I picked up straight away was the opportunity to network and how that has spurred your career on. Would you like to share some of those elements of why it's important to network and work with other people along the journey of either becoming an animator or a picture book illustrator?
yeah, I think it's very, very important that, I mean, I don't think you can be in this industry and not network. And first of all, the animation industry is quite small in the sense that like most people know people, or know the same people, I should say. The studios, everybody kind of bounces around and things like that, So yeah, networking is very, very important. Especially like, say, you're a junior trying to get into the industry, or
Yes.
new graduate trying to get into the industry. It's very important to try to get to as many as you can. Because I still remember you know, when I was getting it, it was very difficult, and it was scary. Very scary, just because again, you don't know anybody. You're trying to a lot of studios um that either advertise like positions or looking for people, they want to work with people that they've worked with before, or they go based on recommendations. But if you don't know anybody, then how are you going to get the shot to actually get in? And it can become like a bit of a weird um cycle kind of thing, like uh yeah, like a kind of weird cycle thing where it's like, okay, well, how can I get in if I don't know anybody? But they want experience, and so yeah, networking is definitely important. And there's a lot of events. I think a lot more events now than there was when I was coming up, where graduates can go to and actually meet people, and talk to people and socialize and everything. So my dad always used to say that life is about relationships, and that goes across the board, like whatever industry that you're in. So networking and relating to people, being self-aware as well, and just being a being how can I put it, being able to work with people, is these are very important things, because also you know people remember the experience of working with you as well, like that stays on. So you want that to be like good experience as well. You want to be that team player, and and things like that. Like yeah, those things aren't easily forgotten. So
Offhand, can you enumerate some of the top-notch networks that you've had?
networks that I've had. Do you mean projects or people?
Yeah, projects. It could be the project name or the company name, either.
So social media, I should have mentioned, social media is good for networking as well. So it's outside of like the physical face-to-face like events and stuff. Social media is great for that. It's one of the few positives of social media, but I won't go into that. And so one that comes to mind is a contact of mine, or a friend of mine, named Carl Jones. He was the uh, co-creator and producer of Black Dynamite, the animated series. He was also I believe, the producer of Boondocks as well. He was involved in that, and also one of the showrunners, producers for Young Love, the HBO series that was the spin-off of Hair Love, the short film by Matthew Cherry.
Yeah, seen that.
So great, really, really amazing short that won a whole load of awards, and the series is doing great as well. So we connected on Twitter like years ago. I think it was maybe like 2014 or 15. I think he saw my work online and just DM'd me, and just said, "Hey, really dig your work," and and I responded back, so, "Oh, thanks," and then that was it. Like we didn't have any contacts for years
Wow.
afterwards, and then I think it was 2021, or end of 2020. Somebody reached out to me from Sony Pictures Animation for early concept work for Young Love.
You say Sony Pictures, because that's a big network.
It was like do you know what? So when I got the email, I thought it was just some scam or some kind of
Yeah,
hack or
yeah.
something. And so I read through the email and everything, and I got to the bottom and saw the what do they call it? the signature at the end,
Yeah.
and like clicked on it, and it went to the Sony picture animation website, and I was like, oh my goodness. I might have even put it in the bin at first, but then I thought, okay, let me go back and check it. And
Wow.
and I said, "Oh, this is legit." And I didn't know how they were asking, "Oh, are you available for this project? We're looking for a character designer for this." Blah, blah, blah. But I didn't know who had recommended me for this, because I didn't know anybody at the time that was working with them.
Yeah.
And it was only it was only until the first Zoom call with everybody, and like everyone was there, Matthew Cherry, Monica Young, and the showrunners, and then I saw Carl Jones was there as well. And I was obviously, we're all on camera, so I'm trying to like, straight face and everything. I was like, oh, this is cool. But I messaged them afterwards to say, thank you, and he confirmed that, yeah, I had to, get you in, So this was like, almost a decade, like, from when we first made contact, so that was a really big thing. And then maybe the next after that, that actually came directly after that, and this was all in the middle of the lockdown and everything. So it was actually like my most, I guess, productive and like successful year in terms of like clients, and just reaching like and also pushing the level of my work in terms of like I didn't know that some of this stuff was in me to do, but when you're pushed beyond,
Yeah.
I think your limit is. Yeah, so that happened. So the next one that came up was I was contacted by a friend of mine named Ramsey McBean. He's an animation producer that's worked on a lot of really big projects. The latest Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles animated feature film that he produced on that, I believe. But he informed me that a friend of his was working on a feature film. Didn't say what it was, and that they're looking for story artists. And I think you should, I'm going to pass your details on. I was like, oh, okay, thanks. And then this guy reached out to me, Ryan Danelli, and we spoke. And I only had one project that I'd done with Ramsey that kind of was along what they were looking for, but I didn't have like years of experience of doing this thing. It was storyboards, but in specifically for like kind of like Looney Tunes style humor.
Okay.
No, slapstick kind of stuff, but I still didn't know what the project was. So I showed it to him, and he passed it on to the directors, and they really liked it, and then they brought me on, and then told me what the project was, and it was Coyote versus Acme, the feature film with starring John Cena and Will Forte and the other guys. So it was a really huge opportunity and a huge deal, and I couldn't believe it. And probably that more than anything else that I've worked on really pushed me to my limits. Like I was excited for the project, but it was hard. It was really, really difficult. So like, I had to wear several different caps. Like, so I started off as the first stage was being a story artist. So we'd get the scripts and we'd have to basically adapt the script to work for like obviously the visual media, and then also we're getting instructions from the director about the shots that he wants to see, the angles, and trying to make that work, generating gags and ideas. And like when you think that you've generated like a whole lot, you're expected to do like even more. It's like, oh, okay, yeah, that's great. Do you have any more ideas? And it's like this everything
Tap it all out.
yeah. So that was the first time that like, I'd been pushed to that limit where it's like you have to dig deep than you ever have. And then the other thing was also pitching in front of, the director, and because it was like this big, Hollywood thing, and the nerves were there like initially, and like, and it's not just casually pitching, like you're having to get into the character and like, do these accents and everything.
Yes.
It was a big deal, but it was very, very exciting. Yeah. So those are the two, I guess, yeah, biggest, I guess, in terms of animation, opportunities that they've come out.
They're quite huge. They are huge. And you've done amazingly well, Maxwell.
Thank you.
Obviously, without, hard work comes into it. So it's not as if you've just had a jolly good time. There's been a lot of hard work that you've had to put into this. I'd now like to start transiting into this new journey of yours from becoming somebody who works in animation, whose work is always digital, it's on the screen, and to working with a physical project, a book, working with a book. The first question I'd like to ask about that is what are the transferable skills that you bring from being an animator into becoming a picture book illustrator?
That's a really good question. So when I started, I kind of came into it quite naive, I think, because I thought that there would be a whole lot. Oh, how much more different can this be to animation? Surely it's going to be a lot simpler. It's just, a still image, versus like a moving image and everything. But uh, there were a lot of things that didn't quite translate, but there were a lot that did as well. So like one that comes to mind is that so coming from a background where I've directed animation and storyboarded, and it helped in terms of composing like the panels, for the characters and the staging and everything like that, and then just the whole thing of sequential, narrative. It really helped with that, particularly the storyboarding aspect of animation. And choosing, so obviously, again, like, the author has written essentially a script. And, so I'm looking at that and, able to look at that the same way as like an animation script. But the challenge actually for me that I found, even just thinking about it now, is I found it difficult knowing which lines to choose to illustrate. I think you understand.
Yeah.
And I remember my editor, like, because, and this was the difference with animation, because like with animation, you have time to like fit all of that in because it's moving, but with a still, you have to choose a line that best, shows or captures like, this paragraph or something like that, And my editor was saying that, don't worry about that too much. Like the rest of the words will fill that in. Like you don't have to like illustrate
Yes. Yes.
every single line kind of thing. And it took me a while to really get my head around that. That was very frustrating. Like now that I'm thinking, like it's coming back to me now. Um, but as time went on, yeah, and thankfully my editor at the time, Lorraine, I had two editors. She went on to work on something else afterwards. Yeah, she really helped to guide me through that process and just kind of explain that it's okay. You don't have to do everything. And then once I understood that, like it was a lot clearer. But yeah, having the storyboarding definitely helped to structure the panels a lot more. Yeah, and then also another thing that transferred over that I noticed as well, and that I think I didn't even. It wasn't actually me that noticed this because I was just kind of doing what I do, and I kept getting feedback from the editors and the team at Penguin that the characters like they felt like they were moving, like even though it was a still. So I think my background in animation, and obviously with animation, like there's even when you're drawing a still, like it's in motion. So that actually carried over to the characters for the picture books as well. That I had one of the feedback that would come back was that the poses were very dynamic, and they felt like they were. So that was quite interesting that that came across. Yeah.
I mean, so from my knowledge of the way that picture books work, and especially because I've been published traditionally, but I've also gone down the route of self-publishing a book. I think one of the challenges that I can understand from your end with regards to, which of the illustrations go here and how does that tally? One of the things that I had to learn was making sure that the illustration does the talking, and especially with picture books, whatever is being said in words, you don't need to repeat that in picture, and that the pictures need to add value to everything else rather than if you say the girl sat down and held a green book that looked so, with the picture book, the book is green. Everybody can see the book. So
Mm.
part of that doesn't need to be within the text.
Mm. Mm.
How much of that knowledge of being an animator, and did you need to incorporate, and did you need to suggest within the text? So were there elements of editing that you suggested within the text, so that you came forth with what you wanted to showcase, or was it just a perfect marriage and you didn't need to make any suggestions?
Um, I I definitely did make suggestions. And the great Selena Brown is the author of the book. She's incredible. What she had written in terms of just for My Rice is Best was just like it was very easy to see her vision. Like when my agent approached me with the book and she sent me the script or the story and I read it, like I could see everything like straight away. And that that's a testament to like how well she wrote the characters. But then also I understood it. Selena's Caribbean. I'm Nigerian, but I could there's a lot of like crossovers and
The Battle of the Rices.
the, the battle of the right. But then even not even just that. We'll definitely get onto that in a second.
We got to go there.
But it was more so like the cultural side of it that like I understood like there's a scene in the morning where sorry, not in the morning, in the evening, where Shane's reading some books and then he hears his mom say, shout out dinner time, from downstairs. And then he comes down and like, it's like his favorite meal, rice and peas in his case. And just seeing, his excitement for his favorite meal and obviously it being rice and everything, like, in my household growing up and stuff, like, obviously, as you know, like jollof rice, that was like
Yeah,
special. That was
yeah,
special.
yeah,
Like,
yeah.
it was just plain white rice with stew and meat, chicken, whatnot was enough. I was excited by that. I just loved it. So it brought back a lot of childhood memories for me. So it was very easy for me to also pull from my own experiences and whilst capturing the vision that Selena had as well. So yeah, so there were things that um, that I that I did add to the book that weren't necessarily like they weren't necessarily like in the writing, but I could see that Selena, she's seeing this as well. So um, and and there were some other things as well, like for instance with the characters, like Yinka's character, you know, I already knew that she was going to be a little sassy lady, like she's very proud of like her jollof rice and and sassy in like in a very cute way kind of thing, like Shane, I saw him as like a quite gentle, young boy kind of thing. And but then obviously when he comes to school and he sees that like, he thought like his rice was like, this is like the best thing ever, never been exposed to like
You
anything.
can't tell us about the story yet. We've got to wait till Wednesday. But
Oh,
we are so looking
very true.
forward to this one. I can't even tell you the amount of excitement that's out there. And I think, with Selena bringing this book, so, oh my gosh, Selena, why did you do this? Why did you allow somebody else to do this book?
Oh man.
It's a fantastic idea. And there's been a lot on the media about which rice is best. And then to have a picture book with these two characters, just, I mean, the front cover is all that I have seen. And I think, wow, this is a battle.
The funny thing is like, so obviously, as you know, like, as the whole, battle of the rices thing, in terms of like social media, like
Yeah.
it's never been with like, Nigeria and like, or Nigerians and Caribbeans, like it's Nigerians, Ghanaians, and
Ghanaians, yes.
that's where this is kind of introducing something else. And I remember the
Absolutely.
first first meeting that I had with the team at Penguin. Selena wasn't actually there at the time, but I did speak with her about it afterwards. And I brought up this point, and I was thinking like, I mean, yeah, this isn't really a thing. So I just want to make sure that you sure that you want to start this thing. Like
Yeah.
we can do it in a playful way and stuff like that. I mean, it's never going to be like in a crazy kind of way, and people like holding pitchforks and like, but it is introducing a new sort of I guess fun conflict of like food and stuff like that. And the book isn't, although those are the Shane and Yinka are the main characters, but there are other characters there, and the book does essentially highlight that everybody has their own equivalent of, their favorite rice meal,
Oh.
So yeah, so it's a discovery. But yeah, no spoilers. I did almost say it too much just then.
No, I think you're safe. I think you're safe because I could have asked more questions and that could have gotten you into a lot of trouble. So we're safe at the moment. So I love the African and Caribbean concepts coming together in one book. I love the element of crossing cultures. I mean, in my work, I work with a lot of I work with Caribbean authors, African authors, European authors, and I just see that this is an opportunity where a simple picture book could bring people together. It's not about Africa. It's not just about Nigeria. Sorry, it's not just about the Caribbean. It's not just about the African continent. It's a book that brings everyone together with a much loved subject about food. Now, going forward from that, what I'd like to know is in this process of becoming, a picture book illustrator, how important has it been that you have an agent who speaks for you? What's the importance of having an agent?
For me, just coming into this for the first time, this is my debut picture book, and I really didn't know anything about the industry. I didn't actually, so for context, so I didn't set out to get into picture books. It, um, it was what we were talking about before, contacts and the
Yes.
network, and somebody
Absolutely.
recommending you, and then it came about like that. So yeah, I wasn't prepared for it in the sense of like I like I knew what I was getting into, and so it's definitely helped. And the agent I have, Jody, Jody Hodges from United Agents, she is incredible. I always say that she's a powerhouse agent. Like even more so that like when I had my first couple meetings with her, when she was just talking to me about the whole process of children's picture books as an illustrator, she asked me about me as well, and the things that were important to me, and things that I stand for. Like we talked about culture, and these are things that like I'm I'm pretty vocal about, like in animation, about representation and authentic representation. These are things that I've spoken about in the past, and the importance of that. So we had conversations on that, and we had a very she shared the same views as well, and she supported that, so it was helpful like having that, because it meant that like she wouldn't just send me stuff that like didn't have any sort of like it was just a job kind of thing, like, oh, I'll just send you this thing, and which, I mean, it's all fine and everything, but I think when you're sent something that you have a connection with, like um there's a there's a deeper opportunity to create something amazing, from that, and my rest is best was that, so having an agent, really helped me in this beginning stage, because there was a lot to there was a lot to get my head around. She explained a lot of the ins and outs, and even obviously like the negotiating, with publishers and things like that. She helped with that and explained a lot of the back end processes, and how things like payment, how that works, like the staggered, the advances, and then um, and then how the process afterwards work in terms of like, once you sell a certain amount, blah blah blah, like all of that, like quite complicated things that like I didn't have like a solid understanding of before, so it definitely helps. Like I'm sure well, you've self-published, and I've only ever heard that. I know that it's very difficult and it's not an easy process to go through, so I don't think that I could have gone into that, like just jump straight into it.
Oh, I did.
So so yeah, it definitely helps. I think more so at the beginning, and obviously as with anything, as you gain more experience and contacts and networks, then maybe it's more easier, and you can sell yourself, you can negotiate yourself.
Absolutely. Okay, I've got just two more questions for you. And one that everyone's asking, AI, the big guy in the room, the elephant.
Yeah.
What are we going to do about AI?
So what we're gonna do, right? We have to you've seen the movie Terminator, right? We need to we need to get a band of us together, and go to Skynet and destroy this machine. Wherever it is, we need to find
Yeah.
where it just destroy it. But honestly, now on a serious note,
I
um,
was 100% with you there, and then I thought,
I
okay,
saw actually. I was like, oh, she. Yeah. I mean, to be honest, I know that there's a lot of mixed reviews about it. I'm not, with the whole thing, and I know that it's one of these things that it's like a very slippery slope. Like, people can say that, okay, it's good for this little thing here, like whether it's like generating, like, just like some small concepts, and then the artist can build on that and
yeah,
everything. But it never stops there. Like it's not gonna stop there. Like, and that, I mean, we've seen this happen in so many other areas as well. And I don't know how many movies need to be made that literally um kind of narrate this same story, and the
mm,
outcome the outcome of that, but then society, or what I don't or the people that are kind of pushing this thing, like still go for it, and nobody kind of learns the lessons. They just kind of see it as like oh well, that's just movie and stuff, but like it never just stops at what people think it's going to stop at. It's going to, like, for example, so a friend of mine, I won't say the company that she works for, but she told me a couple months ago that they're about to have layoffs at her company, and approximately, I think it was like 300 people were getting laid off. And now I said, is that just to do with like budgets and stuff? And she said, in a sense, but it's AI. And that's the first time I've heard of that many people being laid off as a result of this thing. That, like, I hadn't
huge
heard of
number.
that.
That's a huge number.
Yeah, I hadn't heard of that level of impact of this thing. Prior to that, it was only just the speculation that, like, oh, this is what's going to happen, or on both sides, people that were for it or against it. So when I heard that, that kind of made it even more real. That, like, look, there's no denying it, everything, so that's why I say that, like, it never stops at just like, I've heard so many people that are for it say that, oh, but it's good for it, like, say, as I said, generating, like, concept art and everything, and then the writer or the concept artist can build on that or adapt it and everything.
Well, I heard one yesterday, and this one was I can get AI to do the storyboard for me and do all the sketches and take it to an illustrator. I thought, so when you take it to an illustrator, the illustrator just needs to do the coloring. Is that what it is? I thought that was scary. I mean, you know, it's
It's,
practically killing our jobs, isn't it?
I mean, that is what it is, and I've had a friend of mine um, who doesn't have an issue with it, compared it to, um, like, for instance, and I've heard a few people make this comparison to, like, say a few decades ago, or, when the digital revolution kind of happened, where, like, say, okay, just speaking with animation, and prior to that, like, we had whole departments of, like, paint and trace, and color, and that was a whole stage, and clean up, and all these other stages, like compositing with, like, a traditional camera and rostrum and everything like that. And then obviously when the digital media came up, like, everything has been done in this one package, and, like, almost like one person can essentially, like, do, like, all of these different roles. Like, 'cause with animation, like, you as the animator on a lot of productions, uh if you're animating it, but you'll also clean it up, and then you're coloring it as well. And that isn't even to talk of, like, say, rig characters. Like, once it's designed and rigged, that's it, and everything, and obviously, like, budget wise, it makes everything, it's a lot more cost effective than how it was before, for the I guess the investors and whatnot. But I don't see this. um I don't think this is quite the same thing as that, as what, like, the digital kind of revolution kind of did. Like, this feels very, very uh,
Yeah.
different to that, because it's not people that's involved in this. So you might say that, oh, well, the programmer has to, like, put
Mm.
the prompts and stuff like that. And but yeah, I don't know. It's just it feels very, very different, and I don't really, um the direction it's going in doesn't seem very good. Already things are very, I don't know, like, how, like, connected you're in terms of the animation industry, but the animation industry, particularly here in the UK and in the US as well, but more so here in the UK, like, it's not in a good place right now. There were a lot of, like, just looking on LinkedIn,
Mm.
a lot of people looking for work have the green banner on the side looking for work, and these are,
Yes.
like, colleagues of mine that I've worked, like, haven't had consistent work for over a year, over 2 years. And for me, I've never seen it like this before. In my 18 coming on to 19 years working, I've never seen it like this before. There would be, like, little down periods here and there, but it always bounces back, and there's, like, a sort of cycle kind of thing. I don't think all of that is to do with AI. There's some other stuff to do as far as, like, the sort of knock-on effect of the lockdown era, and, like, there was a lot of content that was being consumed at that time, because obviously everybody was at home,
Mm.
and so investors pumped a lot of, like, money into, like, shows and productions and everything. But then obviously when everything opened back up and everybody's outside again, and it's like, oh, okay, right, we've got too many shows out, we've put too much money in there. So I think there's, like, a knock-on or residual sort of effect of that. I think that's part of it, but I think this whole AI thing is definitely creeping into that now. So yeah, the AI thing. Yeah, we can talk off camera about the
Yeah,
revolution.
yeah. I've got to do something about it. My final question, and I think in a way it's a two-part question. Which job is best? Picture book illustrator or an animator? And with that, you can then transit into telling us what next.
Yeah, I mean, that's an easy one for me. Yeah, animation, is that's still the 9-year-old, the 10-year-old in me
Oh, really?
to get into that, and that's never going to change. I'm enjoying what I'm experiencing with picture books, and to be
Mm,
honest, it's I kind of still see it as like it's connected, kind of thing. Just because like I love drawing and even outside of animation. So um, I've actually for the last few years I've actually been pushing more so like character design. As the thing that I'm sort of advertising myself,
Okay. Okay.
and being a story artist as well, and storyboarding, just because I do really enjoy that. Like I like designing characters and that whole process of exploration. So picture books, there's has that same stage to it as well. And it's nice to kind of have a little bit of a break from animating as well, because animating takes a lot out of you as well, particularly 2D animation. There's a lot that goes, a lot of brain power that goes into just thinking about the movement and the timing of things, and things are moving at different timings, and and in the performance as well, you want to get that right. So um, getting into something that's a little more um, I don't think it's like slower paced, but maybe it's less intense. It's intense in a different kind of way, but it kind of it allows you to sort of recharge a little bit and gives you a little bit of a breath of fresh air kind of thing. So that's quite nice. But even before getting into picture books, doing I would kind of step out from just doing character animation for a little bit and just say, okay, I'm just doing character designs, and it's nice to kind of dip in and dip in and out of things. And I think there was a point that I was going to make earlier on, actually. But I guess I'll just kind of, in terms of advice, uh, one thing I would actually say as well is that there's importance in diversifying your skill set as well. Like, within the industry, the creative industry, whether it's, animation, there are so many different areas that you can tap into. Maybe at the beginning, it's good to, focus on, well, not maybe, it's good to focus on um, one thing that you're good at the beginning, because you just want to get your foot in the door, gain experience, learn as much as you can. And then, when you're more seasoned, then you can start tapping into other areas and, and diversifying, because the industry and even other industries, like, think you never know what's going to happen. So when something happens to like one area, you can then pivot and like, say, okay, right, I'm going to try this, I'm going to do this thing. And that's what, picture books gave me, at least with this opportunity. It hasn't, obviously, it's not something that like, has, at least for me now, like, it's covered like all of the bills and all that kind of stuff, but
Mm-hmm.
it's opened up another avenue, and so that's a great thing about like being able to pivot and diversify, so I would say that that's very important. So yeah, animation, is still my love. As far as next projects and future plans and everything, for picture books, we are, and I think I can say this, but yeah, so with Selena, the deal initially was for just this one book, but the sample that I did to actually get the deal and everything, they really liked it, and they offered me her second book as well. So I'm going to be starting work on that. I'm not going to say what the title is yet or anything. But yeah,
Wow.
I'll start working on that. I think the end of this month, sometime around then. So that's as far as picture books, and then even with My Rice is Best, I think that, and I saw this quite early on, that there's a lot of potential with this as far as what it could go on to afterwards. And
Okay.
I with with my background and the different roles that I've had, like, I can see this as something that would adapt very well as an animated series. Nothing has been like, said or anything like that,
Yeah.
so pointing or anything, but I can see this translating very, very well. And if it did, yeah, this is something that I'd be very excited to see on screen. And then speaking of that, as far as animation for me, like future goals has always been to develop my own series animation as well. Like I've had something in development for a while, but it's kind of been like a start and stop thing. But that's something that I'm working towards. Actually, I think I can say this. So, Laura Henry Elaine, the creator of JoJo and Grind, so we were working together a couple of years ago on her next show called and Daddio and Co. And so we've been, basically trying to, obviously get the funding for it and like, pitching it and everything. So if all goes to plan, that will be something that will be hitting the screens, hopefully sometime soon. Yeah, so I did the character designs for that, and art directed the look and the title and things like that. And so yeah, so it's something that we're very very excited about happening.
You are going to be a very busy lad, is all I can say. I think,
I
can
need
I just throw one final question? Because I know I said I've just got, how do you think your heritage, your Nigerian background, growing up, spending part of your life in Nigeria, has influenced your work? And that would be my final question.
That's a really good question. I think when I started out, and even when I was younger, like I'm gonna try to answer this in a condensed way because you don't realize it, but you've asked a very loaded question because
Oh
there's
dear.
attached
Oh
to it
dear. Okay.
that would actually be good to discuss, but if we had more time. But so when I first started out, like when I was younger, like I didn't draw characters that looked like me because I didn't see that referenced anywhere enough um, that influenced my designs. Like, I just drew what I saw and what I saw on TV, what I saw on TV, or, what, like, these heroes looked like, or, and I didn't realize at the time that, like, oh, I'm only drawing, say, whether it's, white characters and, that look like this, and, I never realized that until I got until I got older and um, was in the industry and started, producing my own work, my own personal work. And I went through this whole journey in 2013, 2014, 2015 of studying history. I got very interested in Nigerian history and started studying up on that. And then that opened up into African history and world history. Like you can't go into African history is essentially like world history and stuff. When you kind of look into like the roots of things and how everything's connected. So it really opened a lid on a lot of things. And as I went through that journey, that really changed the way I thought about how I designed and the stories that I told. From like the costumes of the characters and things like that. So it was only up until that point that, like, I would say, like, I consciously started thinking about these things and actually adapting it into my work. But then more so having that epiphany and um, that realization and the importance of authentic representation, why that matters. Like I remember at that time, around that time, I remember seeing this documentary on the what was it called? Is it the brown doll or the black doll or something like that? It's this experiment thing that's been done. I think it was done in like the 50s, but they've done it a lot since then, where they'd get a bunch of children together and then they would hold up, say,
Yes, yes.
yeah,
Yeah.
doll, a white doll and whatnot, and they'll say which one is bad,
Yeah.
which one is the naughty doll, which one is the good doll. Like good doll, they point at, like, the white doll, and then bad doll, like, and you could see the camera would like focus on the children, and you could see like them trying to like just you could see the effects of it. Like even at such a young age, like these were young children, you know, that from that age that has already been programmed into them, you know. So so after all of these things, you know, and having that, going through that journey, I was more intentional about, you know, the images that I created, like for myself personally, or even sometimes like, you know, the jobs that I would take on, like, you know, if I felt that, okay, it's something that doesn't represent that and everything, you know, then that's something that, you know, I wouldn't want to, you know, maybe associate with, you know, but then but yeah, most of myself is just more intentional, you know. So
Absolutely. Maxwell Afolabi Oginni, it's been an absolutely pleasurable experience
it's,
talking to you about your work. And welcome to the world of children's picture books.
thank you very much. It's been an honor. Thank you for having me. And it's been yeah, you've been a really great host. It's been very, very familiar. You know, Nigerian as yourself as well. And even just as you said my name just then, I felt that in my soul.